What's a secret from your job that we should know? Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the Vancher channel. Also, please share your thoughts on this video in the comments. Let's get started. Story 1. Lending. This is not really a secret, but few people outside of the industry know for some odd reason when it should be common public knowledge. If you are ever behind on payments or know you will be with the next one, call in. Banks do not want to take your car. They do not want to take you home. It is in their best interest for everyone to finish out their loan. Banks have entire teams whose only job is to keep you in your home car and get you to the finish line of your loan. There are ways to hold payments, to modify loans, etc., to keep you put. If there are issues with, say, COVID, mass firings in DC, natural disasters, there are programs for backed loans, VA, USDA, FHA, where payments can stop for a bit. If you don't think you can do payments ever, consider a surrender. A deed in lieu of foreclosure, short sale, etc. are things they can help you out with as well. You never want to proverbially stick your head in the sand and ignore things. Answer. Also, follow up if they come to repo the thing anyways. I had this happen where I was working with that team, set up payments, and they came to take in anyway, even though I was paid as agreed with that department. They said I should have called them when the truck was there, but I figured it was their company that sent it, so they must have known what they were doing and ended up losing my car because if I couldn't afford the payments, I certainly could not afford driving 3 hours and paying the fees to pick it back up. My loan provider was USAA. Story 2. It's common practice in the pharma industry to pay daily fines instead of following the law. Fines cap out way below the cost to fix some stuff, so they just budget for an extra $100K per day. Answer. I've wondered what would happen if fines got paid out directly to the people impacted instead of the government. Most cases, the fines are a pittance to the company and the government, and both have an incentive to just let shoot go. If the fines had to be directly paid to those impacted, they'd be a lot more likely to hold the company's feet to the fire. Story 3. To this day, the restaurant industry does not have sick days like normal, and awareness needs to be raised. Most restaurants are staffed so low today that team leaders end up working sick all the time, as they have no one who will cover. Answer. I worked at a teppanyaki restaurant where the chefs cook in front of you. I remember one chef called in that he was dying sick and couldn't make it in. The manager said, "Nope, come in, or I'll put you for job abandonment." So of course he shows up, and holy hell, bro looked like straight passing. He sets up and preps for his first table. He goes out, and as he's trying to push through, he can't help his nasty wet mucus cough as he's cooking. One of the guests gets up and goes to find a manager and starts laying into him bad, saying how unsanitary and unsafe this is. The manager ends up pulling the chef, and here's the kicker. Instead of sending him home, still, they have him help in the back with table prep. The table that complained got names and numbers and ended up taking it to corporate. After their investigation, the manager was eventually relieved of his job and the chef was given 3 paid days off. And after that, we had a big meeting implementing sick time. It was only 3 days, but it was better than nothing. But yeah, it's crazy how the places handling your food literally don't give a fudge. It's gross scary. Story 4. Keep all the syllabi from your college courses. If you ever decide to do another degree, or if you decide to transfer, the syllabi can help prove that a course should count for transfer if the new university rejects it initially. Just put them in a folder on your computer somewhere or in your backup and leave them there. You don't know what you will do in 5-10 years or more, and this will help you save money and time if you do ever go back to school. Story 5. I do Collison repair, auto body, and a surprising number of people don't realize that wrecking your car and then getting insurance after the fact to try getting it repaired is insurance fraud, and you can go to jail for that. Also, if repairs run longer than expected, it's almost always because parts didn't show up. But we'll also blame parts not showing up, even if it's just because our painter is an idiot and works 2 or 3 days a week. Answer. Auto mechanic, wrong parts showed up. Translation. They didn't. I'm just busy and I haven't had time yet. We don't have the tools required to fix this vehicle. Translation. This is going to be a headache and we don't want it. Please come back for a retort within 100 kilometers. Wheels don't come loose, ever, unless they were improperly installed. A retort is to catch our potential mistakes. Story 6. I work with end-of-life dementia. When you go to visit your family member, we've had to spend half an hour changing their clothes because they get food drinks urine or feces on them almost constantly. They put their hands in it and we have to clean it off quickly. We have a short amount of time to make them presentable for you because they can make those messes at the drop of a hat. We do all we can to make them feel normal for you. If you're a family member that goes in and still complains about the occasional odd sock or that they have stubble and need a shave immediately, then please know the staff do not like you. Answer, thank you. My sister passed from EOA. I don't know how you do that job with a smile on your face and treat people with gentleness and dignity. I know not all places are like that, so I appreciated the little touches my sister's carers would do for her. From making sure she was presentable to crushing her pills and chocolate pudding, making sure she had music on, and making her laugh. Thank you. People like you are angels on earth. You are appreciated. Story 7. Flight attendant, former gate agent here. If a flight is oversold and they discuss having to bump you to a later flight, you are entitled to 4x the amount of your ticket, not a travel voucher, an actual check, versus volunteering to take a later flight where they give you the travel voucher, knowing that a majority of people don't actually claim them within the allotted time frame. It's bullshit that they can legally oversell flights, but they do have to pay you out and still get you there. P.S. Please be nice to the poor agents rebooking you. They didn't make this policy and are getting very underpaid to have to enforce it BC of their greedy employer. Being nice to them can help you get extra hookups. Story 8. I'm a court reporter. I type in a different language on a different keyboard called a steno machine that costs $5,000, and the steno language is translated in real time on my 4500 software. The technology behind creating a legal transcript is unfudge real. As a court reporter, I can hear the difference between testimony and colloquy and format my document as I write to put in all the proper indentations and label all the speakers. It's basically embedding coding into a document while I'm also processing every word I hear IRL at 200 words per minute. Not many people know that the questioning lawyer turning his head to speak to the judge warrants a different speaker designation for the same person. Steno is shorter than typing on a QWERTY keyboard because I can type entire phrases in one stroke. The line below is 4 strokes in steno, whereas it's 66 characters if you type it on a QWERTY keyboard. That includes punctuation and spaces too, because you need to type those. Q. Okay, as you sit here today, you don't remember what you said? STKWHROBG. SKPWUTES Capewarple WAUDQ. Okay. As you sit here today, you don't remember what you said? I depress all those gibberish letters down at the same time on my keyboard, making each entire phrase one stroke, thus making it shorter and faster to write. And that's how a court reporter can write 200 words a minute. The periods, spaces, and question mark are all coded into my dictionary and the software itself. I can control the software from my machine and never touch my computer. Unfortunately, AI records only what it hears. It's not thinking or picking up context or nuance as it's recording. How many times have you watched a video with auto-generated captions and the caption has the completely wrong word? AI won't be taking my job anytime soon. The quickest, most intelligent computer on earth is the human brain. Answer. When I was in IG, we were looking at AI to do speech to text on our interviews. In the end, we stuck with manual transcription because if the case ever ended up in court, we had to have an actual human certify that the transcription was true. We already had to have a human listen and note errors, and that was only mildly less labor-intensive than having the human do it in the first place. Story 9. Always wash your clothes when you buy them. You have no idea how many used tissues and free sample cups I find hiding in the clothes. Story 10. Psychotherapist. 1. The reason why you can't make the changes you want is because you don't know how. Your experiences have taught you to respond to situations in the ways that you do, and you have never learned different ways. You aren't going to magically know different ways because you want to. Instead, you have to learn different ways and practice purposefully, and it's going to feel weird and strange because you have been practicing what you have been doing your entire life. You aren't an idiot, a failure, or any other negative self-talk. You just can't know what you don't know. 2. When we grow up, we are taught that good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people. When we are kids, if something bad happens to us from someone that we are taught is supposed to love and care for us, parent, grandparents, relative, or be a good community member, doctor, police, religious figure, we rationalize that since they are good, we must be inherently bad, since bad things are happening to us. This is false. Sometimes people are randomly dealt really crappy hands to play in life. You didn't do anything to deserve it. It just happened, and it's not fair. 3. When you leave a session, we do not gather around and giggle about you. We don't think about how you said this one thing in session. We only want you to succeed. Answer, OMFG. Finally, number 2 always drives me crazy. My thinking of life changed when I literally volunteer. I donate to charities. I did things without being told. I don't drink. I don't do any substances. And nothing good has come out of it. I lost my job recently. I lost all my friends. And so to me, when people say, just wait, good things will come, I do not believe it anymore. Literally my whole life I go out of the way to help everyone. I take, for example, the current president. Sorry to get political, but in my eyes, I do not see him as a good person. So why is he practically getting good things? And people like me, who sometimes go days without sleep because I try so hard to do good, be good, and nothing good has come to me. I have always had a passion for helping out others. Ever since I lost my job, I have had the free time to go out and volunteer more and just help with what I can, but I struggle a lot. I personally do not believe I deserve this, but the statement, good things come to good people, is just baffling to me. Story 11. There are so many people that come to our clinic with very obvious dementia that are still driving. I cannot tell you how many people I've seen that are unable to draw a clock who drove 20 miles on the highway to get to our office. Please make sure to drive defensively because you never know who you're driving next to. Story 12. Cremation urns are marked up $300 at funeral homes. You can buy your own for a fraction of the cost, and it's coming from the same place. Same with caskets. Story 13. I work in IT. I have no idea how I got this far, 4 years, from just Googling the answers or copying from a colleague each time. Answer, I've been in the industry for almost 20 years now and been doing it as a hobby for extra cash for 10 years before that as a teen college kid. Most of us are just average people who know enough to Google the right thing and apply it. As you grow in your field, you'll absorb some of that information, and it will make you seem like a wizened guru. It's honestly no different than any other field. I've worked in many in my life. It's just like playing DD and gaining XP. Story 14. I work in tourism in a popular holiday destination. Seems obvious, but always buy your excursions straight from the seller. Find their Instagram or phone number on Google. Reaps agencies will sell you the same ticket for the most inflated price they can get away with. Story 15. Patients fall through the cracks, and doctors often forget to put in orders, leading to procedures and treatments, I work in oncology, being unnecessarily delayed. Literally a matter of life and passing, but because the patient population is so high and the doctor-nurse to patient ratio is so skewed, things get missed all the time. Scary to think about. Answer, tangentially related, but funny story. I was in for an outpatient procedure at a surgery center, and the nurses and doctors that came into my room kept asking what I'm there for. It was clear they already knew the answer, but were checking anyway, and I asked one of the nurses why. She said, it's to prevent medical errors. You wouldn't want a boob job, would you? I, a slightly chubby dude, replied, no, but I might take a reduction. Story 16. Amazon is eliminate bookstores, local businesses, and doesn't give a shoot about it. Use your library when you can, use local when you can, but treat Amazon like Target where you only use it if you absolutely have to. Story 17. I'm a train driver in the UK. If we're stopped at a red signal, most of the time we have no idea what is going on. If trouble is brewing further down the line, unless the signaler has called us or made a general broadcast, we have no idea what is happening. Passengers can usually find out what is happening before us via social media and our TfL websites. When we come to a stop at a red, unless I can see what the obvious reason is, we send a message to the signaler standing at signal, at which point they send us a text message back saying wait, or they might call us, or send a text saying contact signaler. There's only so many times you can do a PA saying, still not sure what is going on, hopefully we'll be on the move soon. If I get more information, I'll pass it on. Answer, I, an American, took a train ride halfway across the country, partly because it was the cheapest way to get where I was going, partly for the novelty. At some point, the train stopped, and we were stopped for such a long time, I asked one of the attendants what was going on. I don't know. We probably hit a cow or something, or a person. Could be anything, really. A person or a cow, probably a cow. Does that happen often? Perhaps noticing my look of shock and horror for the first time. Thank you for traveling with Amtrak. Walked away. Story 18. If you call the tech support number for your company's surveillance system and ask how to delete footage, we're not going to tell you how to delete footage, but we are going to ask what footage you're trying to delete so we can advise your company's security team to review it. Story 19. Please research who you use for construction. Make sure they are insured by getting their binder from the insurance company directly. If that field is licensed, not all are, go with someone licensed. If it requires permits, make sure the permits are pulled. If you have unlicensed work done and your local government doesn't have it on record, it could screw the sale of your home. If they are digging, make sure they are using CBYD or whatever your underground utility service is in your area. Everything you can break underground is expensive. I can't tell you how many people are in the construction field that are downright idiots. Story 20. Low on colors are basically a way to make you spend money on new cartridge. Cartridges have an expiry date. No matter how much ink it still has, it will still prompt to replace when the time is up. Story 21. Putting stickers like fragile or this end up on your parcels means fuck all. There's maybe 3 people that physically handle your package going across the country. Most of the time, it's mixed in with thousands of other packages, getting tumbled around on miles conveyors and sorters. Pack your fragile things better than you think you should. It'll make it just fine if you pack it well, but no one else gives a rat's jerk about what happens to it until it gets there. Story 22. 911 dispatcher here. When you call 911 and give the address and nature of the emergency, they dispatch the call right away, and someone is already en route to you. They continue asking questions so that they can update the first responders with your answers as they are on their way to you that way when they arrive. They already know what's going on and can get right to work. If you hang up before the 911 operator can finish gathering the info, then the first responders are going to take time to ask those questions anyway when they arrive. So please don't yell at hang up on 911 dispatchers when they're gathering info. It is not slowing anything down at all. It's actually quicker to do it this way and ensures faster resolution to your issue when help arrives. Some agencies have the same person answering 911 and dispatching the calls out over the radio. Others have separate call takers and radio dispatchers. So if you don't hear your 911 operator dispatching it, it's still being dispatched just by a separate person. Again, no delay caused by the questions being asked. Also, if you call 911 from a cell phone and aren't sure of your location, keep the line open for as long as possible for them to track the most precise location of your phone. Cell phone locating on 911 lines is pretty amazing these days, but can take a few seconds to refresh once your 911 call is answered. And if you hang up too quickly without having given an address, we often won't know where to find you. Lastly, please don't let your kids play with old cell phones that still turn on. All cell phones, even those with no active service or no minutes left if prepaid, can still call 911. So many 911 lines are clogged up either with kids fascinated by the fact that someone is answering on the other end, just straight up playing around once they figure that out, or by babies, toddlers just babbling away with no one around. Answer: I had to call 911 to report an accident, not involving me, on the interstate. I knew where I was roughly within 1 mile. Weather was too bad to see the 110th mile marker signs, but was amazed when the dispatcher mentioned she was trying to pinpoint my location. Previously, I had thought that was something that cop shows exaggerated to fill in plot holes. Story 23. The data centers going in everywhere are funded by private equity funds and are tax exempt. They are using consumable water to cool down their systems and don't add many jobs to the communities they are leeching from. Story 24. Teachers have a reputation with the parents, but parents also have a reputation by the teachers, and sometimes the classes are adjusted to divide the parents and not the students. Story 25. I back up the semi-truck and cannot see through the trailer walls, so I cannot see you driving towards me as I am jackknifing into a dock off a roadway. Please pause until I finish the maneuver. Answer: and those signs on the semis that say, if you can't see my mirrors, I can't see you, are true. And if anyone has ever seen a semi-tire blowout or tried to pick up a semi-tire to realize it weighs 400 cubs, would never drive alongside of a semi. A piece of tire that comes flying off can easily eliminate you. Your windshield absolutely will not protect you. And drivers do not always have a way to know a tire is about to explode. Most of the time, they are relying on other semis to alert them on the radio. Of course, not counting pre-drive checklists and noticing damage then. Please pass any semi as quickly as safely as possible, and do not cut in front of them as soon as you are 3 past them. They cannot see your car at all for 50 directly in front. And if you hit your brakes, a semi-loaded weighing a total of 80,000 litres is absolutely not going to stop anywhere before running you over. Story 26. In the U.S., if you're uninsured or if your insurance is charging too much for your prescription, we can always bill it through a discount program like GoodRx, ScriptCycle, SingleCare, etc. These companies always list their prices online. Your pharmacy might not bring it up to you because we lose money for billing through these plans, but I, for one, would rather save people money if I know there's a better deal. And never let someone pay full cash price. If you're worried about the price of your prescription, just look up these coupons and present them to your pharmacy. I have seen them save our patients hundreds of dollars. Edit, I understand that this means the payment will not apply toward deductibles or max out-of-pocket costs. I am stating that these coupons may be used as an alternative to insurance. Sorry, should have been more specific with that part. Answer. My wife just talked to her coworker who can't afford a medication after a pharmacy change, and I told her that exact thing. I pick up a lot of meds and my pharmacy knows me well enough. They just automatically pull up and put in GoodRx anytime I have a new script. It's daylight robbery that an extremely accessible coupon can even matter that much. Why aren't they just priced like that to begin with? Story 27. X-ray techs have a ton of education and experience recognizing trauma and pathology, but 95% of the time will not be comfortable telling you anything we're not supposed to, and will leave it up to the doctor to break the news to you. You need to have a good poker face when you take a shot or see a scan preview and there's clearly a broken bone or tumor or vague, ominous weirdity on the picture. It just becomes part of the job being like, that's lung cancer, brutal, this poor person, and to just smile and say, okay, off you go, have a good one. Story 28. No matter how much you pay someone for lessons or to train your dog, you still have to follow through and train your dog. Story 29. In restaurants, the special of the day is often there to move ingredients that need to be used soon, not because it is the chef's favorite dish. Story 30. I mean, it's not exactly a secret, but American students have collectively gone to shoot. Elementary and middle just pass everyone without holding any back. I'm seeing kids in high school who literally cannot connect two thoughts together, let alone build a cogent essay with copious support and scaffolds. Answer. I'm battling through a public high school with my daughter who actually wants to go to med school. There is almost no academic rigor. They get as many chances to pass a test as they need with open book most of the time. They offer no AP courses, and we have been spending a fair amount on tutoring and are going to send her to our community college for STEM classes starting next year. The school's a joke, and we want her to be prepared for an actual university experience. We are lucky to be in a major U.S. city and have some options, but a lot of folks don't even have a community college available. Story 31. The cafe on site at my office that's all homemade and organic gets their pastries and rotisserie chicken from Costco. Story 32. Former jeweler, all jewelry in the stores are marked up $300 to $700. That 10,000 pounds ring only costs $2,000 to $3,000. That is why when you try to sell it back to a company, you get very little of what you paid for it. Story 33. Network engineer. The internet is in fact a series of tubes bonus one. The cloud is just someone else's server. Story 34. I submit patients' medical documents to their insurance for authorization requests. My biggest secret tip is this. Get a letter of medical necessity from your doctor if you think for a second, will insurance cover this? It will help so much when we first submit the records to your insurance. I can't guarantee it's foolproof, but it's the easiest thing you can do to make the process less stressful. I've had an incredibly medically complex child once that was denied coverage of the special formula they absolutely needed for their condition. So I worked with the family to get a letter of medical necessity from their provider and appealed with the payer, and they wound up approving it. It's a painful and extremely frustrating process to battle your insurance company in the U.S., but you can certainly help if you just keep in contact with your provider or the company providing you with medicine, equipment, etc. Story 35. Any email or document you have on your work account or computer can be collected. If you perform work via your personal phone or personal email, those can also be collected in litigation. Only write at work things you don't mind strangers or a court reading. Story 36. Emma, home manager. Think a personal assistant for people's home lives. No one has their life together. Doesn't matter the income level, the education level, etc. Everyone has some aspect of their life that is out of control. I think it's helpful to remember this when I think I'm not doing enough. We are all doing the best we can with the circumstances we are in. Story 37. I'm an electrician that used to work a service van. I was the guy that would come to your house if you needed work done. 1, if you see a commercial, billboard, radio ad, or any other advertisement for a company, they're going to fudge you on price every time. Same thing with the company that has a brand new, immaculate-looking fleet of vehicles with a full vinyl wrap that turns it into a drivable billboard. This advertising costs money, and they are passing TCO cost onto the customers. The companies that want fudge you on price don't spend money on advertising. They get all their work through word of mouth by doing good work and having previous customers recommend them. So not only are they usually cheaper, they tend to do better work since their work is their advertising. 2, if we come to do an estimate, we are factoring you into the price. If we feel like you're going to be difficult to work with, we will add time on the job to account for the time we anticipate arguing with you during the course of the project. Same thing if your house is cluttered. If I feel like I'm going to have to spend an hour or two moving your furniture around to work in the area, being extra careful working around your china cabinet full of glass knickknacks, etc., I'm going to add that time to the estimate. 3, somewhat related to 2, but if you are rude to me or my guys during an estimate, I am going to charge you more to make it worth our time. On the flip side, if you're super nice, I'll bend over backwards trying to get the estimate as tight as I possibly can, where we still make money, but you don't get hosed. Story 38. A lot of people come into my shop and ask me to melt an old piece of jewelry to make into something else. I can melt your gold and turn it into another piece of jewelry, but it will come out pitted and in poor quality. I need to use fresh gold from the refinery to cast something properly. As a professional jeweler, my reputation is everything. I don't want to produce an inferior product, and I will not lie to a client and tell them I will use their gold. Story 39. I worked in digital marketing for a while. Your phone is absolutely listening to you. No, you're not crazy. It is also tracking everything you search on Google, and thousands upon thousands of websites have a Google API installed to track your browsing and purchases. Those terms and conditions you blindly agreed to for every single app you use might have just agreed to let that application turn on your mic or camera when the app is not in use. Your phone is absolutely monitoring everything you do. The good news, boring dystopia portion of it is that it's usually just done for marketing purposes to sell you more products, not necessarily to infiltrate your privacy and read your messages and whatnot. Story 40. Many country clubs buy cheap food and pass it off as something premium. And because they are private, they do not get inspected by the health department. I have seen some seriously nasty, disgusting practices working 2 decades in various fancy country clubs. Story 41. Always wash your fresh produce you buy from any store or market. You can't even imagine how many people are coughing, sneezing, and touching literally anything they see in the store. Also, a lot of people let their unbehaved children roam free around, and they are even worse most of the time. That's one of the main reasons I don't buy baked goods from the bake shop in most stores. People are disgusting. Answer. I worked in food testing for a while. Even if there aren't gross people around the food in the grocery store, they use proprietary water to wash it at the packaging facilities or whenever they put it into cold storage. And they reuse the water hundreds of times, and they don't provide really bathroom breaks to the pickers on the fields, so that fruit is not really clean in anyway. Story 42. The results you see when searching for anything online, dentist, plumber, news, online shopping, everything, are not random. There's an entire industry designed to manipulate algorithms to get certain websites and businesses to appear over others. Answer, which is why Google has largely become useless. I used to exclusively only use Google because it always had what invasive looking for usually within the first 3 links. I went to look up top-rated restaurants in Seattle last week and only got links to travel blogs that I can't be certain weren't just AI. The amount of ads on each of those sites was insane. I typed the same exact thing to DuckDuckGo and found exactly what I was looking for. It's a shame Google failed. Agreed. Story 43. Please don't turn in fire hydrants and play in the water. Do you know the amount of rocks I've seen come flying out of those at 60, 150 psi? It's terrifying, and God forbid a bolt or a few are rusted out. My coworker almost had a hydrant hit him in the face a few weeks ago as it decided to become a rocket ship. Story 44. Social worker. We may not show it, but we're burnt out, the pay is shoot, there's high turnover, our resources aren't always reliable or timely, and there's little support for us. Please be patient with us. Most of us are trying our best. Answer: no one gets into social work for the money. Thank you for continuing to show up even when it's hard. I made it 12 years before switching out of the industry. For me, it wasn't the clients. The majority of them are so kind and just trying to survive. It was dealing with leadership, workplace politics, and watching the majority of my clients get denied basic needs despite doing literally everything right and by the book. The broken system really wears on you. Story 45. When I worked for Citibank, they wanted people to pay their bills with a check so they could charge $14.99 to process it even with people struggling to pay bills. They made a bulk of their profit on cards that way. If we didn't ask, we would get a bad score. Story 46. I work in a cath lab that regularly accesses your femoral artery, and knowing that strangers are going to be up in your nether regions should really inspire some of y'all to clean your chute up. Story 47. I work for an HVAC company. The memberships they sell are just not with it. There are always specials that can get your yearly maintenance down to nearly nothing. I mean as low as 10, and most times if you claim the call center didn't quote a service fee, the tech just waives it. Story 48. We keep people way past the point that we should. Passing with dignity and respect is a beautiful thing. Story 49. In high school, I worked at KFC, and I'll tell you, most of that food is made and prepped in a disgusting way. Answer: my friend's grandparents owned our local KFCs, worked there in 1978 to 80. They were so maxed on the cleanliness, sanitization that it was ridiculous to me as a teen. Think her uncle still runs the last one here, and I love KFC. Jussians, not all of them are crappy, but makes me aware that the chain is not what makes for a safe place to eat. It's the standard of care imparted upon the employees. Story 50. Former cell phone customer service. What I can do, what I'm allowed to do, and what I want to do are three entirely separate metrics. And the service you get has 100 to do with how well you treat me on the phone. Because I can do a hell of a lot. I can even get away with most of it, even if it's not allowed. What you need to do is convince me that it's worth burning one of my once or twice a month bending of the rules for you. Story 51. If you are in a facility for mental health or substance use, there's probably some form of insurance fraud going on, at least a little insurance fraud. Story 52. Higher education functions because of exploitation. Student workers, graduate TAs, part-time faculty, and contract workers don't get the big pay that taxpayers and pundits regularly complain about. And sadly, the exploited are often the ones who care the most about students and research. Peeking behind the curtain is always eye-opening. P.S. I still value higher education as it got me out of poverty. I simply view it differently now. Story 53. Always keep a spare tire. Always have warm clothes in your car. Watch out, take note for mile markers and cross streets. I don't care how good you think you can drive on icy roads. Black ice is a meanie. And if the fudge sign says fuel up now, fuel up and bring a jerry can. Story 54. Unless you do your part to parent your children, they will not learn much from teachers. Parenting involves demonstrating respect towards all people, promoting work ethic, making good choices, and instilling the difference between right, wrong, and taking responsibility for one's own mistakes. If you don't do these things at home, your child will not do them at school, and they will not be able to learn the academic things that teachers are trying to teach. Story 55. If you are a kind person, donating your old device or stuff for the poor in Africa, rest assured it will end up in the spare parts depot to repair things for free for our entitled and very annoying wealthy customers. Story 56. I worked for an HVAC company that was owned by a religious fanatic, and the operations manager was a bad dude who hired fellow members of his biker club. They all did coke and sold coke out of company cars. Weirdest 2 years of my working life. Story 57. I work insurance claims, and it's true, the bigger jerk. You are the more likely we will pay the claim because it is not worth the company's time for us to argue or litigate with you. Be the jerk. The establishment has whole bets on you taking no for an answer and going away. Story 58. Making excuses for your child's awful behavior is setting them up for failure. You are making more work for yourself in the long run. I see 150 students a day. If I call you about a behavior concern, it's more serious than you realize. Story 59. Librarians rarely have time to play with books. It's much more administrative and managerial than people think. Answer: Thank you for being a librarian. It's extremely complex, often thankless work that often gets reduced to, as you said, playing with books. Whether you're working in a private library or a public system, we need you now more than ever. Everyone else reading this, please go get a library card. You can access so many resources 100 free that you wouldn't even realize. For example, my local library offers Cricket Workshops rental, 6-week Wi-Fi hotspot rentals, ePubMed access, LinkedIn Learning, New York Times unlimited access, Mango Languages, National Park Pass access, rental, movie rentals, parenting classes. Signing up for and regularly using your library's resources helps justify the costs involved in keeping up all these programs when they write grants to ask for funding. Plus, the designs are super cute. There's one in my state with a Snoopy design. Story 60. A very large portion of conversations in the operating room would get everyone sent to HR if the wrong person overheard. Story 61. Have been a hotel general manager for a decade. Always book direct on Hilton.com, Marriott.com, Hyatt.com, etc. Booking on Priceline, Booking.com, Expedia, etc. is a scam. Not only can you earn points and other kickbacks by being a member of a respective hotel brand, you also always pay the lowest price and your reservation is actually guaranteed. Let me explain. The major hotel brands purposefully make sure the rates you see on their sites are the lowest prices possible. Hilton actually tracks this and fines their hotels if they find their prices aren't the lowest on the internet. Look for yourself if you don't believe me. If you stumble upon Trivago and Kayak, they're all smoke and mirrors. I have seen way too many people book their rooms on a third-party website and say at check-in that they booked a double queen instead of a king room on a sold-out night. Oh, you have a family of 6? We literally cannot change the reservation at the hotel, and you have to call their 1-800 number to get them to fix anything. The third parties don't care and will give you whatever room type just to get your money. I've even seen it where the third-party site will book their rooms for the wrong dates entirely. Thus, your reservation isn't actually guaranteed. Good luck trying to get your money back if you ever ask for a refund due to their mistakes. You'll be stuck in an endless loop of trying to get the right person by phone, then email, then phone again for weeks. I tell everyone who checks in that booked on a third-party website to sign up for our free hotel membership and never look back. Story 62. Not a job, but an old internship. If you're submitting to literary agents as an author, know that the first pass is done by some 19-year-old who isn't paid. If they don't like it, it never even makes it to the agent. Story 63. The right time to buy a car is when it's the cheapest. When I was selling cars, I made large and minimum commissions at all different times of the month, at all different times of the year. You just have to be a pain in the jerk most of the time to get near the bottom line. Politeness gets you nowhere, unfortunately. More often than not, the people who got the worst deals were people who were polite. They didn't know money talk. And I'll give you a hint. They weren't the people who had the money to really afford it comfortably. I was not a fan of that job. Answer, I used to sell cars. And once I'd left the business, I went to a different dealership than the one I worked for to get a used car. Knew my score, knew which car I wanted, and about what the payment would be with nothing down, knew which bank would give me the best interest rate as I'd been with them for a long time. I explained all of this to a girl I used to go to high school with working there, basically to say, don't try your tricks on me because it's not going to fly. Lo and behold, she tries it, tells me I need this much down, and I can't get the car I chose. I need to get a new Honda Fit, give me a darn break, and I need to put money down, and even still, the monthly payment will be $200 more than what I was sure I could get. Okay, yeah, right. Called one of my old coworkers. She buys a new car like every 6 months. Asked her who she went through at this dealership. Called the girl hassling me and told her I wanted to switch to this salesperson friend mentioned. She got it done for me in 2 hours while I was working. No money down, good interest rate, the car I wanted, and $2 higher than my existing car payment, which was in range of what I wanted and knew I could get. And the original girl lost a sale for not listening to darn thing I said in the beginning. Story 64. That the contractors they hire has never installed gutters before and get little to no training and sales rep overcharge elderly people, even got a person with dementia to sign a contract. Story 65. Most car insurance bodily injury examiners can give up to $3,500, $5,500 without supervisor approval. If you don't like your settlement, ask for more and refuse to settle. You might not get the examiner's max, but you'll get 2 to 3x more than the initial offer just by saying no. Story 66. A lot of us struggle significantly with mental health problems, and we have a high tragic end rate. We are competent and can do the job, but the calls haunt us. We can't put this on our loved ones, so we suffer, and a lot do not believe in therapy. Our profession has a high divorce rate because spouses cannot handle being with a first responder. Not because of anything we do wrong, but they cannot handle our job and what we deal with. We are not just ambulance drivers, and calling us that will piss us off, LMAO. Driving ambulances is just one small aspect of our job. Most of our calls are medical. I like to explain our calls like this: 90 medical, 8 bullshit, and 2. Oh shoot, a lot of places run 48s. 48 hours on, 48 hours off. This is more common with fire though. And yes, we get to sleep, LOL. But we also have to wake up and respond to calls. Intersections are the most deadly places for EMS. The sirens are just as loud in the cab as it is to y'all. Pay sucks. It really fudge sucks. Like, I get paid less than 20 HR and I live in an expensive area. But I would not want to be anywhere else career-wise than a first responder. EMTs and paramedics are not the same. EMTs have 1 semester of schooling. Paramedics have 2 years. Eat it. A simple thank you will make our day. Hell, it would make our week. EMS is a thankless job, and we are often forgotten when people thank healthcare workers. We aren't heroes, but a little kindness goes a long way. This is all US-centric stuff. Story 67. I work in casino gambling. We make the slot machines you game on. Depending on where you're gambling, there is nothing you can do to up your odds of winning. There is nothing you can do to hit a jackpot. The odds are all public. It truly is random for the most part. It is not in your favor. Story 68. I worked at a hotel wedding venue. Your wedding isn't special. I worked at tons of weddings and they're all basically the same, just with different color schemes. I did once, however, have a Friends-themed wedding. I don't like Friends, but I love that it was actually different. Your guests really don't care what color the napkins and ribbons are. The favors end up in a junk drawer, and they won't remember any of the little details. Just make sure your guests don't go hungry, they have plenty of adult beverage, and the kids aren't feral. Pick a good DJ, and you have the perfect, most memorable wedding. Never look under the tablecloths. You will see some horrific stains on the cheap chipboard underneath. Story 69. A good paralegal with 10 years of experience can do 85 of what your 825 HR lawyer can do. Save a whole lot of money. Search for a local experienced paralegal and pick their brain about how their boss would handle your legal matter. Give a few of them a few $100 and take notes. Take those notes to lawyers you're thinking of hiring. Story 70. Those second date callers, prank calls, War of the Roses, cheating spouse callers that you hear on the radio morning show are actors. It's all fake, all of it. None of those things have happened. It's all scripted. Story 70. Half the time, the people in charge have no idea what's actually going on. They're just better at pretending they do. Story 72. At a bird-based insurance company, the CISO covered up the exposure of millions of claims records, many with health data. The privacy attorney had said this was bug and real. The CISO lady said, nothing to see here. Story 73. I work in government, and the red tape is real, and it's beyond frustrating for many of us too. Sometimes, though, the red tape is that I just haven't done it yet or I forgot. You won't ever know that, though, BC, I am definitely blaming finance. Story 74. That recycling in a lot of states is a lie and is only done to look good when in all reality it gets dumped in the same hole with the rest of the garbage. It's the reason I don't recycle anymore. Story 75. I work in retail, and 90 of the time when I say I'll check in the back, I know it's not there, and I'm just scrolling my phone for 2 minutes so the customer feels like they got extra special service. Story 76. The vast majority of scientists, including those at public universities and research labs, work very hard to do good, accurate science that benefits the public. Story 77. General contractor, superintendent here. Construction is a game of lowest bidder, plausible deniability, and obfuscation. You are not getting what you are paying for often. I fully anticipate losing this job for refusing to do this. The space between fighting it, refusing to do it, and the subversive actions of my management is shrinking fast. I look for new work every day. Story 78. Canadian Ignition Interlock. We have many celebrations for long-term clients who finally get approved to remove their devices, and we absolutely notice personal growth. We rarely get to tell our clients this, but we are proud and we are rooting for everyone. Story 79. Get pet insurance before you show up at the veterinarian. Your pet can't be sick, get hurt, and you show up at our door upset that we won't take some magical insurance you haven't signed up for yet. Do you sign up for auto insurance minutes after getting into a wreck? Story 80. Document fudge everything. Keep a neutral tone and only state facts. If you want to express feelings, use I statements or when X happened, I felt Y. Also, for the love of all that is holy, check your time card every week and your pay stub every week. Story 81. I'm a model and I do a lot of e-com for fast fashion brands. They pin us and alter the clothing to make it look the best it can. Story 82. Maybe not a secret, but not a lot of good information on it. When you reach the age, get Medicare Part A and B. Stay far away from Medicare Advantage plans, also known as Medicare Part C. Story 83. Automatic car washes and unlimited memberships are horrible for your car. Paint damage, fading, chipping, cracking. The swirl scratches that show up after long use. Your rubber molding starts ripping and peeling off. Gas door won't stay closed if it's a company that uses powered dryers. Running board problems. SUVs with back wipers get significantly worn down. I could go on and on. Hand wash your car, people, or only do touch less if your car is ridiculously dirty. Your paint is not meant to withstand daily high-pressure washing. Story 84. Former facility manager. Never ever drink at the water fountain. The sheer amount of use required to keep it safe is almost never reached. And even if it's a widely used one, and this should be safe, do not use it on Mondays without letting it run for a full minute first. The company who lends you the fountain does some tests, but they never do the ones that would show it's unsafe to drink. I've never seen a company pay for an independent test. And when it happens, like when UFM wants to prove your company should ditch the whole thing as it's costly and a health hazard, I always saw the same result. The water is not safe to drink. Edit. I've always had water fountains directly connected to the mains, with no storage tank. The ones that use replaceable bottles should be even worse than what I described. Story 85. Shouldn't be a secret, but if your neighborhood was built 50-ish years ago and hasn't had any repairs or upgrades, the sewer and storm drainage systems are probably ready to fall apart. If your local government is competent, they will be either working to fix the problem or willing to start on it. Don't neglect what's underground just because you can't see it. Your utilities require maintenance and repairs just like everything else in your life. Story 86. I'm a physician, and there are more errors by doctors and the staff than you can imagine. The more redundancy built into the system, the fewer the errors, and some health systems are better at this than others. Don't hesitate to ask questions and expect truthful answers. Story 87. I drive a school bus. When the red lights go on and the stop arm comes out, drivers must stop from all directions. From behind me, coming towards me, from the right or from the left, from a private drive, or if I'm on private property or a parking lot, just fudge stop. You'll still make it to the plant substance shop in time. Apparently, some people think if they're coming from the left or right, they don't have to stop. Story 88. HR didn't fire you, your boss did. HR didn't deny your pay increase, your boss did. HR didn't deny your promotion, your boss did. HR didn't put you on a PIP, your boss did. HR didn't mandate RTO, your CEO did. HR didn't choose to do nothing after investigating your harassment claim, your boss did. Story 89. Software engineer. A lot of my job used to consist of searching Stack Overflow and trying obscure things. Now there is ChatGPT. Story 90. Do not use anything with talc, including makeup powders, and now dry shampoos are being examined as well. It almost always has asbestos. Even products made with cornstarch are now testing positive. Story 91. A significant amount of the free resources on the internet, including things like the metadata about books Amazon uses to make their site searchable, are created by publicly funded or nonprofit librarian jobs. The internet would not work without librarians. And the cuts to IMLS, NIH, etc. mean those resources aren't being created or maintained anymore, which is part of why your internet searches don't seem as accurate as time passes. You're better off searching for thing you want to know and LibGuide than using ChatGPT or nearly any other search engine. Also, you can call or message your school library, public library, or even the bigger libraries you aren't a patron of, and they will find the resources you can trust and or give you an answer for free. It's part of what they're paid to do. Story 92. 99 of the time, cavities don't hurt until they reach the nerve and need a root canal. As a dentist, I'm always amazed by how many patients don't know this and think they can't possibly have cavities because their tooth doesn't hurt. Story 93. Decade in senior living. Just because you have kids doesn't mean they will be a part of your life. Don't have kids thinking it will prevent loneliness in age. Plenty of lonely, estranged parents exist. Bahananas. That being said, plenty of child-free socialites exist too. Story 94. I work at a library. We don't really care if your books are late. Many libraries have no fines. So long as they're not on hold for someone, you turn them in at some point, and you're nice. I also sometimes have late books. Also, please, it's okay to throw away books. We absolve you of any guilt you might feel throwing away old books or DVDs or VHS tapes instead of trying to donate them to us. They lived a good life. Story 95. Archaeologist. Unmarked burials are way more common than most people think. There's a pretty high chance that you've unknowingly walked over several burials, even in places like modern parking lots in the middle of Walmart, especially parking lots, actually. Also, the infamous tactic employed by the shady real estate guys in Poltergeist, moving the headstones but not the bodies, is not only a fairly standard practice, but it's often even the preference of living family contacts. Exhumation and reburial is a very expensive, involved, and potentially destructive or traumatic process. Leaving the remains in situ and only moving the headstones, markers also preserves the, albeit very slim, possibility of future restoration projects. It's not exactly common, but it isn't unheard of. I've done GPR, ground-penetrating radar, work to locate the original grave shafts and restore headstones in at least 3 former 18th and 19th C cemeteries that were cleared out in the 80s to build an Arby's or something. In the U.S., this is depressingly common when it comes to the burial yards of enslaved individuals. Story 96. I work construction. There are male body part drawings everywhere inside your walls, and you'll never find them. Story 97. If you get behind on your self-storage unit and it goes to auction, just buy it yourself. Often you can pay pennies versus what they want you to pay to redeem your unit. I know that the big multi-state companies allow this. Story 98. If a checkout screen asks you to round up for a donation, decline. The companies use your donation as their own tax write-off. Just donate directly if you want to donate to charity. Story 99. In the film world, if you work as an extra and feel like you have no idea what is happening on set, this is 100% intentional. The production does not want you to understand what is happening around you so that you're disinclined to ask questions. Story 100. I work in the cannabis industry, and the amount of pesticides and bugs that could possibly be on the plant substance you are smoking is insane. I stopped smoking plant substance after seeing all that. Also, it applies to fruits too. Wash your darn fruits. Story 101. That big-name fast food joint is almost certainly a locally owned small business. Joe's Corner Diner is probably corporate-owned. Story 102. Don't have any ice in drinks unless you can see it made and dispensed with no human contact. I formatted a detailed study of ice served in bars, and the results were eye-watering. I will just say in the 18 samples taken from different bars, every sample contained feces and sperm. Story 103. I used to be a call center customer service representative. 10K calls a year. Be direct about what you want. We aren't mind readers, and we are trained not to be. Even if it seems obvious what you want. If you don't ask, it likely won't happen. I might pick up on subtle nudges that you want something, but calls are recorded, and these days AI parses the transcript. You won't get any information that isn't requested. We don't care how long you've been with the business. It's a business. Money for service. I'm under the same contract. I'm here to get paid. Loyalty means nothing. Don't make threats to the person on the phone. At the end of the day, I couldn't care less if you take your business elsewhere. Rude or threatening means minimal assistance from that point forward. The easier you are to work with, the further it'll bend to help you. Speaking to the manager days are over. If they get a manager for you, it's probably just a CSR with more experience, not a real manager. Even if they are real, the differences in what can be done will be minimal. So treat people like you want to be treated. Story 104. I worked in a bank, and they spent a lot of time working up different systems that would encourage people to overdraft so they could charge overdraft fees. They even knew that the overdraft fees predominantly hurt people with less money, and that didn't matter to them. They pamper the rich and bleed the working poor. Story 105. I have worked at preschools that have fed children very little, and it was food of little nutritional value. I obviously did not stay at those places, but a decade later, somehow some of them are still in business. If you have a baby in childcare, pop in for lunch or snack once in a while, just to be sure. Story 106. The earthwork done under your newly built house in Las Vegas is most likely poorly done, and your house will probably settle way more than normal. Story 107. Being a nurse is an extremely hard job. You have to have an abundance of patience. Please be nice to nurses. Story 108. Quite often, stuff is sent to customers that shouldn't be functional, but for unknown reasons is. We get no complaints, but there are serious flaws in the product and somehow it functions. Story 109. Most large Fortune 500 companies can run with half its employees. For any one task, you may find 3 people doing it in different departments. Executives make business cases to hire more people and grow their teams. This gets them promoted and higher salaries. Story 110. The food at this buffet I used to work at was never thrown away. It was either put out again and again until eaten or repurposed for a different meal. For example, leftover chicken or beef became chicken and rice or beef and rice. Breads and pastries were thrown in a mixing bowl to make new pastries. Story 111. From when I used to work in retail as a teen, if we say we don't have any more of an item in the back, it's because we know we don't have any more in the back. When customers ask us to check anyway, we just walk in the back room to placate them and don't actually look for the item because we already know it's not there. I'm now a CPA and tax accountant. Whatever tax strategy that you've cooked up in your head that seems too good to be true is in fact too good to be true. There isn't an idea that hasn't been thought of and addressed in a tax code. Story 112. I'm a nurse. A lot of the time when you're in the hospital, it's a big guessing game. Don't get me wrong, people are making really educated guesses, but a lot of the time, it's, well, hopefully this med or treatment works, especially working in a teaching hospital. You'd be shocked at the amount of times a resident has said they have no idea what to do and asked for advice. Answer, I've had doctors look things up in front of me, and I've never once minded. Like, yes, please acknowledge you don't know everything, but will do everything you can to figure out what's going on. One time, my dad had bug-lay eggs larvae under his skin. We came back from Costa Rica, and he had this pain for days that he finally went to the ER for. When the doctors finally figured out what it was, they had to Google how to treat it, and why it makes perfect sense they would need toets, not really something you see much, lol. He had lots of curious nurses coming to check it out. Story 113. Primer and paint products are hot garbage. If your painting project requires priming, get a true primer, which are also substrate specific. Story 114. In the U.S., a lot of veterinarians are owned by big corporations. A lot start out as mom and pop and then get bought out to private equity or conglomerate. These corporations take over, mark up prices, tie our hands on what care we can give and for how much, only care about the revenue brought in and don't care about the staff's mental health. Staff, even doctors, are paid terribly. We are always understaffed, but having to cram in appointments to make that money. The prices you pay for medical services go up about every 6 mo and no one gets a raise. We don't make good money at all. Most techs need to have 2 jobs or a spouse partner with a good paying job to even live on their own. The field is toxic due to these corporations coming in and not knowing a lick about the vet field. We are tired, stressed, underpaid, and get verbally abused all the time. Veterinarians aren't out to bend you over. The prices are usually out of our control. Everyone you meet who works in vet med started out in this field to help animals because we love them. It's a shoot field. I don't recommend anyone going into it. Please be nice to us. Story 115. I sell appliances. There's so many bells and whistles that you don't need but are more expensive. For example, air fry is literally just convection where the fan blows a little faster. That being said, induction is the way to go for your stovetops. Story 116. Public school teacher. We aren't allowed to tell parents' families if there's something developmentally wrong with the kid. It sometimes takes years of documenting to get the ball rolling to have a child tested. A lot of parents rightfully assume, oh, if there's a problem with Sammy, the teacher would let me know. But we aren't allowed. We can't even really hint at it in some districts. Also, but they let my child pass 5th grade. What do you mean they can't read? Happens a lot more than you'd think. Also, we get violent kids in the classroom sometimes. We aren't allowed to remove them. We aren't allowed to kick them out. We aren't allowed to tell the other parents that there's a violent kid in the class. If you have children in public school, the district is more likely to do something if the parents make a stink about it. Story 117. Vet. The vet you're seeing almost certainly doesn't own the place. Even if they're the medical director, they are quietly owned by a private equity firm. They don't set the prices. About 22 of what you pay at the vet goes to the vet's salary. The rest of it goes to operating us in the underpaid staff salaries. The sweet old doc who didn't run any of those fancy tests and just gave your dog a steroid shot, please avoid that guy and just let him retire. Story 118. A huge amount of the vegetable, canola, peanut, etc. oils sold in the United States are all the same oil with different labels. Story 119. I worked at McDonald's for a stint as a new mom and found maggots in the frappe machine. Turns out that the pipes and inside the machine never got cleaned in the 5 years it was installed. Australia. Story 120. From working in hospitality, money talks. Restaurant you want to eat at on a 2-hour wait, 2050 gets you in immediately. Want to eliminate some time at a fun hotel pool, 2050 gets you in with no side eyes and questions. Want to check your bags at a hotel because you have a while until your flight leaves? Bellmen don't care where you are staying if you throw them, 2050. Want to valet but have your car left close and waiting for you, 2050. Story 121. You can send an arbitration demand to the legal department of many companies, and we will give you money 500-ish to go away regardless of how silly your claim is. Story 122. I work in child welfare, front-facing direct work with children in crisis. The secret to understanding a child's problematic behaviors and learning how to help them is to stop asking, "What's wrong with you? Why are you doing this?" And to start asking, "What happened to you? And what do your body, mind, and heart still need in order for you to feel safe enough to heal from it?" This is the heart of trauma-informed care. We look for the unmet need behind the behavior. We then try to meet the need or find someone else who can, so that the child feels safe enough to try new things. When someone comes from trauma, their problematic behaviors are often maladaptive responses to their environment. It's difficult, sometimes impossible, for someone to change those behaviors to healthier ones when they still constantly anticipate danger. We can invent and innovate effectively in dangerous conditions to survive, but we cannot integrate our actions and intentions with who we are when our safety needs are not being met. A child focused solely on survival cannot focus on what it means for their behavior to be right or wrong or even good or bad. They know safe in this moment and not safe in this moment. When they get to our agency, they begin to learn safe in this moment, and maybe in a later moment too, depending on, we have to figure out the depending on before they can learn safe in this moment and for the foreseeable future. That's when we can really focus on changing behavior, but not before. Story 123. I'm a pharmacist, and I currently work for one of the big PBMs doing prior authorization work. Some people need to try certain medications on their plan's formulary, eerie, before specific medications will be covered. To bypass that for certain plans, you can call and ask what medications are on formulary that are similar to the medication you are trying to get that requires a prior authorization. Then you just call back and request to initiate a prior authorization for the substances you want, and then just tell them you already tried all the substances that they mentioned that are similar that you found out is on formulary. When the pharmacist reviews the case, we will be able to approve it a lot of times just because you stated you tried those medications, no proof necessary. That's it for this video. Don't forget to support Vancher and my second channel, Vancher. See you soon.